Welcome to oldhalloween.com. I'm Kurt Gilstrap. I do run the website, and of course you can see my face. I'm also the one running our YouTube channel. I wanted to just start by talking about a really old piece. We'll do that today, but I also, in addition to the really old piece, I want to call attention to a number of resources that we have available that you should check out because they're free, and I think that's usually a pretty good thing. So let's look at some resources, and then we'll get back to talking about this really old piece. Right, first and foremost, you just need to understand if you go to oldhalloween.com, that's www.oldhalloween.com, you can get a whole bunch of information about good vintage and antique Halloween. One of the things that we do each and every single day is make sure that you get bookmarks for some of the best pieces, collections that have come to market. You can find them, of course, on a number of different platforms. We decided, why don't we just put them all in one place? And so we actually built kind of our own bookmarking system here on oldhalloween.com, which we're looking at right here. But there's another thing that you'll want to notice that's a super helpful resource. If you navigate to oldhalloween.com and then look at the resources, just click on the price guides, and we are building out hammer price-based price guides for a number of the most important collectibles. So at this point, we already have price guides for pulp-based jack-o'-lanterns, for paper and composition jack-o'-lanterns, for other kinds of paper lanterns. We also have sheet music. We also have things like door stops and crepe aprons. We already have an incredibly large number of die cuts, since die cuts do comprise such a large portion of collectibles. And of course, you can just navigate in. It's free, but it is based on actual data from hammer prices on eBay. And you can, at will, on your own time, whenever you are just sort of surfing around, spend some time, look at the price guide. You can also vote up the things that you like. So if you happen to have a particular set of, in this case, die cuts that you might like, you can just click on those, and that will essentially provide a vote so that others, when they land on the price guide, they can see up near the top those items that folks tend to like. But there are already hundreds, plural, hundreds of different die cuts that you can find there. And again, of course, there's a whole set of price guides eventually, and we'll be making the announcement here on YouTube as well as on our site when we add additional price guides, which we will do for things like candy containers. We'll certainly do it for some of the additional table decorations, blow molds, plastics. As those things become available, as we make them public, we'll announce them. You're going to want to check those out because they are updated and kept fresh and new. So, and of course, you can check them whenever you want to. You don't have to carry around, let's say, an old price guide that is paper if you don't want to. You can actually just pull out your phone when you're out shopping someplace. You want to check a price guide, you can do that because it's digital and it's free, which is a huge thing. There's one other thing. I sort of made it sound like that was going to be the last thing, but it turns out there's at least one more thing you want to check out when you land on our page, and that is that we are also sharing a number of catalogs that we own. We've made them digital, and you can go and look at them whenever you want to. One set, for instance, is organized around 1910s and 20s, actually 1910s, 20s, and 30s. You have, for instance, a large Shackman. You have a whole bunch of collections that have been put together for the 20s and 30s. There are also catalogs that are more specific to the original publishers in the 20s section. I'll just pull up an example here from Lambert Deacon. This is actually a really interesting catalog, but it actually takes the original and we made it so it's easier to look at. It's also digitized and easy to flip through, so you can spend some time looking at it. Oh, there it is. The Lambert Deacon Hull Printing Company out of St. Louis. This is their guide. I'll just click through and we'll look at the first page or two, but when you pull it up, you can do the exact same thing. And of course, it always may take just a moment to load because it is loading an entire PDF and putting it into an application that's digitized that will show up the same on your phone as it does on any other screen you might happen to review. But you can flip through just like I've done right here in looking at the Halloween items in their catalog. So wanted to point that up. I also wanted to point up that it's not just one or two catalogs, but we actually already have several catalogs another example of something that's pretty difficult to find online. And we put it all in one place, right? So it's very easy for you to get access to it. And of course, as we digitize more of our catalogs from our own collection, we'll make those things available for you as well. That way, if you need a place to go to check archives, you can certainly do it. And I'll give you one more example here that's kind of nice. And this is a small collection that some of you may already have, but a number of you probably don't, of early catalogs from the 40s and 50s here. And you'll see it just sort of says 1940s and 1950s catalogs, and it looks like this, right? We clicked on the earlier set of catalog pages. You can see up in the very top left-hand corner, it says Shackman and Company, New York, 1916 and 1918. So these are pages from the 1916 to 1918 catalogs, and a number of cases with Shackman and some of the other novelty organizations. They would, from year to year, sometimes use the same pages. In the early years, sometimes they would just do a direct print from the previous catalog, and it would just be the next year's catalog because the inventory was the same. But we like this as a place to go to double check, especially if you collect old Halloween or vintage Halloween, to be able to see what the pieces look like as they were advertised in the catalogs is huge. And of course, we also have some material from Beisel and Dennison. When we are able to, we'll get those put up. But some of these are really unique because they are organized by region as well. So when possible, we are going in and adding annotation like we did for this instance to point out that producers, those who actually were printing the catalogs and making them available to those who would buy, so you can see where they came from. In this case, we're looking at Shackman and Company out of New York. All right, so a whole bunch of things you can do on our page. You can certainly spend days and days and days loading and looking at content. We have hundreds of posts up already. And of course, as I mentioned, we have our price guides, we have our catalogs. We'll be adding more and also more fun and entertaining pieces as well. We have a lot of informative information already on the site. But if you're looking for a place that's digital, very easy to access, very easy to navigate, but gives you the kinds of things you need for your collecting needs, for your review needs, for your shopping needs on your device or devices on your mobile devices, on your PCs or your Macs, this is the resource for you. All right, well, now let's talk about something that's a little bit different than just the web page. And of course, you want to check us out at oldhalloween.com. And that is this really interesting scrapbook from 1912. All right, so I'll just a really quick story. I do collect old scrapbooks. I just happened to, was very lucky I was able to come across this particular scrapbook out west and had no idea that it had some of what it has in it, but I knew it had some Halloween. What you'll see on your screen right now is a couple of screenshots. So what I did was I took the scrapbook, I made some photographs, I shared them, blew them up so it's easier for you to see. I'm going to show those to you, but I'm also going to have me just talk to you on a very quick video here, and then we're going to look at some of the specific pieces. Since it's from 1912, and there's a pretty good chance that a number of you have never seen Halloween this early, I thought it might be kind of fun. Additionally, because I hadn't seen a couple of these pieces before, I wanted to just spend some time looking at them, and so we're going to do that. Let's start with just a short video of just the first few pages of this scrapbook, with the knowledge that the scrapbook came out of a collection from somebody who put the scrapbook together to memorialize her early years as a student. All right, so there you can see that Velta, you can see Velta's name right here, Velta actually put in the year that she was a sophomore in high school, 1912, October 25th, 1912, she has listed on her handmade jack-o'-lantern. Under that, she also has Thanksgiving as well. But on that first page, she has a couple of those early postcard, or I should say calling cards or dance cards. Sometimes they were referred to, but calling cards. And it wasn't until I flipped the page, I was very surprised because in addition to that first page, you can see the jack-o'-lantern on the corn cob. That second page had a number of pieces in it. All right, so that was my first discovery in the video there on the left-hand side. Let's actually look at those images a little bit closer up, and I'll just show you. Here is page 1, and here is, if I can get it there, the combination of page 2. page 1 looks like this, right? And again, we're able to see very, very quickly that Velta Minnick actually had her calling card, her dance card from her time in 1912 at her Halloween party. And then she also had what I'm going to surmise, based on reading the rest of the scrapbook, or at least looking through it, that she was dating Arthur Burke. And Arthur Burke also has pasted in calling card or dance card here. And those are both at the bottom of the page down here. Let's get those a little bit closer. You can see I've blown them up. So up here on the left-hand side, I blew Arthur Burke's card up, and you can see United Art Publishing Company, New York City, printed in Germany. Same thing for the Velta Minnick Halloween card right here. United Art Publishing Company, New York City, printed in Germany. Let's see if we can do a little research to figure out about United Art Publishing out of New York City. Since this is a 1912 set, they were published for mass consumption. That must mean that there are more out there, more available, more that we might be able to find. But I've not come across them. I don't know, maybe you have, but most of the folks I've spoken with haven't come across these previously for Halloween, though they have come across quite a few dance cards. And I'll just mention I do have a few dozen Victorian Edwardian dance cards, or calling cards as it were. And there are a few of those later ones, Edwardian era cards, that have United Art Publishing on them, but these are the ones that are Halloween specific, and I thought that was a really cool find. This would be kind of fun. So what I did was I actually took ChatGPT, you all have heard of it, and asked ChatGPT to tell us something about United Art Publishing Company. It says that the United Art Publishing Company was a publisher based out of New York. The company was known for producing and distributing art prints, posters, and lithographs during the late 19th and early 20th century. They were active in the business of reproducing and selling artworks, including famous paintings, illustrations, and photographs. They played a significant role in making art more accessible to the public by offering affordable reproductions of well-known artworks. They'd often produce these reproductions in various formats such as prints and lithographs and sell them to mass market. All right, so kind of what we'd expect from especially a large company, a company that was obviously in the business of creating novelty artwork and sharing that with a public, selling it to a public. In this case, because it is a novelty, it is seasonal, it's based around a particular moment on the calendar. These are very specific to Halloween, and they're gorgeous. Let me just say, I love the fact on the left-hand side, you can see up here at the top, we've got Arthur. I put Velta's down just below here. We've got Arthur's signed United Art Publishing Company out of New York City, Halloween, and it has the two witches around the cauldron with a Joel or jack-o'-lantern down below, a little bat up here in the top left, and of course you've got the great big moon, and that's over to the side, providing plenty of real estate to put your name or to sign your name down below the Halloween card, the Halloween title, excuse me, on the dance card or the event card or the calling card. Velta did the same thing. Here's the jack-o'-lantern with the witch's hat on top of the corncob body. Thought that was fantastic. Think it's fantastic. As another option, also provided by United Art Publishing Company out of New York. Now, on the second page is where we find some things that really sort of struck a chord with me. Let's look at that. First, on page 2, we can see the exact same first, black and white. These are just flipped, right? Because the other page we saw Arthur's witches and Velta's corncob jack-o'-lantern. They're flipped on this page, so turns out I actually have one for each of them for each of these types, which is fantastic. But on this page, we also see a couple of pieces up here at the top that are kind of unique. Now I blew those up just so we can see them a little bit more clearly. And you can see right here, they're also, you can see, really look closely. You can see United Art Publishing down here at the bottom. You can also see over here on the witch flying against the moon, same thing. In both of these cases, though, it looks as if they were probably similar to the ones you can see down here below. They were probably black and white, and then you're maybe asking yourself why they're colorized. It looks as if Velta or Art, in this case probably Velta, decided to hand color them. So on the left-hand side, we can see that assuming it's Velta, probably Velta, Velta came in and provided with different colored inks, black and yellow and orange, a little additional wash to the card. And then of course, used some ink and made the fire under the cauldron, for instance, and colored the owl and the cat with blacks and some yellows and even some oranges. I love the fact that she went as far as to get the yellow in the cat's eyes and the orange in the owl's eyes. So she's really spent some time with this. On the right-hand side, on her own Witch Against the Moon card, you can see that she didn't just provide the wash, she also did the same thing for the witch. And so she's not just giving it a wash or darken it up, she even added some definition. She colored the cape, she colored the broom straw, she did the same thing for the bats. Just a really interesting piece. I love handmade Halloween. I love it, especially when I find it in conjunction with some early pieces or some difficult to find pieces, or just a nice decoupage or melange of really interesting collectibles. But I thought you would also really enjoy seeing it because it is just so very different from what you usually come across. Okay, so I wanted to show that to you because that's just a thing that you don't see very often. And then I wanted to point up the website. Check it out. You're definitely going to want to enjoy oldhalloween.com. And then finally, and this might be a nice segue into maybe a cliffhanger, right? Into our next segment where I'm going to give some time to trying to dig into and figure out where this is a very small and very early nut cup, where it came from, because this very much looks like the precursor to some later nut cups that most of us have found in various guides over time. And so you want to probably spend some time digging into it with me when we come back on the next edition of oldhalloween.com. Again, Kurt Gilstrap here on oldhalloween.com. Wanted to just spend some time talking with you about some really interesting stuff that I find, some resources that are useful for all of us who collect. And of course, especially if you're ever trying to find some good information, if we can provide that information, or if we already happen to have it, it's free to you, and you'll want to check that out. Don't forget, if you're very interested in following us, you want to continue to follow us on YouTube, but definitely check us out also on the website. And give us a really good email address if you'd like to receive our newsletter. That's one of the things that we do every single month, and sometimes multiple times a month, as we find really good deals on early vintage, or if we discover a really interesting piece of early vintage that we haven't found before, maybe that you haven't found before, and that way you can follow along with us and maybe enjoy the resources as we develop them for you. Thanks for joining, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next episode of oldhalloween.com.